Sooner or later, every good cowboy pays a visit to the Oklahoma State Fair. But beneath all this family-friendly fun lies a deadly memory.
People killing people? That idea is just so foreign.
One that these good neighbors would just as soon forget. It's Sunday morning in the cozy neighborhood of Landsbrook, Oklahoma. And like every Sunday, there's only one place to be. And here, inside the house that God built, is where construction foreman Ronnie Stump met his best friend, Rob Andrew.
Got to know Rob best through a men's ministry that met at 6 o'clock on Monday mornings.
Rob and Ronnie would get together every week for spiritual support.
Was the first time in my life I had the ability to have somebody to call up and say, hey, yeah, I'm struggling with this.
But these days, their talks have shifted from God to girls. Rob has just separated from his wife, Brenda.
Rob was real upset to the point of tears. She asked him to leave the house, and he went and got an apartment and moved out.
Rob remains a devoted dad and returns often to see his children.
Rob called to let me know that he was in the driveway to pick the kids up, and that was the last I heard from him.
Just minutes later, a frantic call goes out to 911.
911.
Hi. I've been shot. My husband and I, we've been shot.
The caller is Brenda Andrew.
Who shot you?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. They had on black masks.
With time possibly running out for the two victims, Master Sergeant Ronnie Warren races to Shaftesbury Drive.
When I entered into the garage, I could see that Mr. Andrews was laying on his back, and there was a large amount of blood. I could see that there was multiple penetrating wounds that ran along his torso and then all the way up to about his neck.
It's a dire situation, and not just for Rob.
Mrs. Andrews also received a gunshot wound to the upper arm.
It appears that Brenda will survive, but Rob is not so lucky.
You know, Mrs. Andrews was across from him and asking what his condition was and if he was going to make it.
The diagnosis is grim.
There's a lot of trauma, and there was not a lot I could do for Mr. Andrews.
Tragically, this 48-year-old father of two dies at the scene. With the killers on the loose, officers spring into action.
We got a definite crime scene here, and there were suspects still at large.
Investigators blanket the neighborhood, but it's too late. It appears the gunmen have disappeared into the night. Rob's friend Ronnie struggles with a devastating loss.
There was all the emotions, the pain, the suffering that goes along with a tragedy like this. So you're kind of in a fog.
The next day, not even a new pair of cowboy boots can quiet rumors about the double shooting.
Look at this.
And if you try enough on, you'll find one that fits.
Well, you know, I heard there were two of them.
I hope they catch him before Thanksgiving.
Oh, I know.
I know, I'm gonna lock my doors from here out. What do you think? Oh, it looks good.
Some folks go for retail therapy. Veteran Oklahoma City Detective Roland Garrett gets down to business. The first task is to get a statement from the surviving victim, Brenda Andrew.
Brenda Andrew said that Rob Andrew was coming over to pick up his children for their Thanksgiving weekend visit. She had been having problems with the pilot light on the heating unit in the garage. She asked Robert to attempt to check the pilot light. The overhead garage door was open, and two individuals approached the garage door. Without saying anything else, the suspects began firing.
It's a harrowing tale, but there's one question Brenda can't answer.
Brenda was unable to give me a good suspect description because of the trauma involved in the incident.
Without a description to guide the investigation, detectives begin searching for a motive.
Because of the neighborhood and the type of people who live in this neighborhood, they live in expensive homes and drive nice vehicles. I was thinking the motive could have been robbery.
Could this simply be a robbery gone wrong? Recent police reports offer an intriguing clue.
Brenda Andrew had asked officers to step up patrol in the neighborhood. She thought someone had attempted to break inside her home.
But Garrett and his partner Gary Damron know how to spot a burglary, and they're not convinced that money was the motive for this shooting.
If we're dealing with a burglary here, you wouldn't think that these people would come in when these homeowners are coming home from work, though. That'd be the wrong time of day to commit a burglary.
And crime scene investigator Teresa Bunn points out a critical clue.
In this picture, he's still got his wallet in his back pocket.
It seems likely that murder was the real motive behind this crime. And there's another chilling detail.
And we have the shotgun shell on top of the van, so we know the shooter reloaded. And we got the small caliber bullets in the wall, so we have more than one gun.
2 guns, 2 gunmen, and 2 victims, but only 1 fatality. It begs the question, was Rob really the target, or did he simply get in the way? If you can't find America's kitschy soul down in Oklahoma City, you're just not looking hard enough. But for Little League dad Todd Ranger, nothing could be more soulless and un-American than the murder of advertising executive Rob Andrew.
Especially being here in Oklahoma City, you know, we're middle-class America. That idea is just so foreign. People killing people, it's just not, you know, it's just unfathomable.
But someone's got to make sense of this killing, and the pressure is on detectives Garrett and Damron to find the murderers before they strike again.
This case was very demanding. From the moment it happened, we were constantly interviewing and making contact with friends and associates of everybody involved.
But with 2 shooting victims, where do you start? A report filed just weeks earlier may hold the key.
Rob had been called by someone on the telephone, a female, and told that Brenda and the children were in the emergency room at a hospital in Norman, Oklahoma. He gets in his car and starts to back out, finds that his brakes aren't working properly.
When Rob takes the car into the auto shop, they confirm the worst.
I just took the car in there, and they put it up on the rack, and they said it's been sabotaged. That sounds like attempted murder, don't you think?
He drove extremely fast all the time, and it was a ploy in order to get him out on the highway and him to have an accident and maybe cost him his life. It'd be one way to get rid of him.
It's a chilling revelation. Rob has been a marked man for weeks. But why? There's one possibility detectives can't ignore.
A lot of times these home invasions are going to be drug-related or something like that.
Could there be more to Rob Andrew than meets the eye?
We have previous police reports which may associate people in question with certain individuals, and we just use that and find out what was going on in these people's lives.
But Rob is squeaky clean.
We never found anything on the flip side of Rob Andrew. There was nothing to suggest that he would be involved in anything illegal, immoral, or anything.
In fact, Rob's life was an open book.
Rob Andrew kept several journals in reference to his work and his home life.
Most of it, you know, had to do with how much he loved his kids, the things that they did together, places they went together.
But Rob's journal also details the painful story of his deteriorating marriage.
There were some bad things in there, you know, had to do with Brenda.
But what could be so bad about sweet Brenda?
She was having affairs with different guys, and Rob indicated that this had been a problem all through their marriage.
And for years, every blushing bride-to-be in Landsbrook has made a vow not to follow Brenda's example.
Enjoy having a hubby who cooks. Love Meg.
I guess what I don't understand is the betrayal. You know, if you love somebody that much, why would you want to hurt them?
Everything that you've shared with that person, it's all a lie.
Just get a divorce.
Right.
Brenda's liberal take on her wedding vows is Landsbrook's worst-kept secret.
We began gathering information by contacting family, friends, co-workers. Sometimes we receive anonymous phone calls from people.
Brenda's cheating heart has been seen all over town.
Kind of flaunts it, that everybody knows, doesn't really care about who sees it.
We'll have to see if we can get a hold of some of these other people.
And detectives know jilted lovers can be capable of terrible things.
In a homicide investigation, everybody is a person of interest. I mean, everyone, you know.
Could jealousy have driven one of Brenda's boyfriends to take out Rob and put a bullet into Brenda as well? They say the only thing a good square dancer needs is a trustworthy partner. And if that's true, then Brenda Andrew might be the worst dance partner in all of Oklahoma. In this investigation, there's a whole posse of potential suspects.
We find out she's been having affairs. The person she's involved with may in fact be our potential suspect. They get rid of the husband and they can have the wife all to themselves.
This lengthy trail of lovers leads detectives to the most unlikely place of all, church.
Brenda was a Sunday school teacher and also worked as an assistant with James Pavat.
And there's one commandment these two Sunday school teachers have most certainly not been following.
It became quite obvious that Brenda and James were having a relationship together, and people were beginning to talk and feel uncomfortable with them in leadership roles.
It wasn't long before this Jezebel and her Ahab got what was coming to them.
The leaders of the church asked Brenda and James Pavat to step down.
James has got more than a carnal connection to Brenda. He's also intimately acquainted with Rob and Brenda's finances.
Jim Pavat was their insurance agent.
And there's one particular policy that raises some eyebrows.
We discovered that James Pavat had written an $800,000 insurance policy for the Andrew family on Robert.
And that's what insurance agents do best. But here's something they should never do.
We found a change of ownership form for the insurance policy, which had a forged signature, an attempt to change the ownership of the policy from Robert Andrew to Brenda Andrew.
James has ensured that Brenda would make out like a bandit if Rob were to die, leaving James free to make out with Brenda. Word of this new connection swirls through town.
A lot of people think that this $800,000 life insurance policy motivated this killing. Yeah.
You would think that that would definitely have something that would factor into it.
But there's one small problem. In order to collect, James would have to marry Brenda. But monogamy never was Brenda's style.
We began receiving information that she had several boyfriends that she was actively seeing at the time of Mr. Andrews' death.
And James is not a man to mess with.
Brag a lot that he was a special forces soldier in Vietnam and that he had killed a lot of people and that he could do it again.
Were Brenda's loose ways the real motive for the double shooting? As investigators pursue this new lead, the community gathers to put Rob to rest.
As we show up to the funeral, it's jam-packed, close to 1,000 people, maybe more.
I guess people started to buzz, and it was that Brenda was not there with the children.
Brenda and the kids never make it to the funeral, and the day takes a frightening turn.
Rob's dad came up to me, put his arm around me, and informed me that Brenda and the kids were missing.
For Brenda's family and their attorney, it's obvious what's going on.
You need to understand. And that she may have been abducted. She may have, God forbid, met the same fate that Rob's met.
When James Pavat turns up missing as well, investigators search his apartment and find a critical clue.
We found that James Pavat had actually purchased a .22 caliber revolver.
And ballistic testing reveals this is the smoking gun.
That particular gun was used in the shooting of Brenda Andrew.
It's clear that James was involved in the double shooting. Yet there's another possibility that detectives can't rule out.
Once we realized Brenda is missing, we began thinking that possibly they're together.
And investigators still have one more card up their sleeves. A forensic breakthrough is about to turn this case upside down. That's coming up next. Newly wounded and widowed Brenda Andrew is missing, and her family believes that James Pavat has her in his clutches.
I truly believe with all my heart that if Brenda could come home to us, that she would.
Brenda's family is of the opinion that that she has left not voluntarily.
But investigators suspect that there's more to the story.
There was always something strange about the fact that Brenda was unable to give me any suspect information.
And the timing of her disappearance has fueled their suspicions.
When they didn't show up for the funeral, Roland and I thought for sure that she's got to be directly involved in this.
But Brenda's family denies any link between her and the crime.
The allegation that Brenda participated in Rob's death is simply not true.
So who's right and who's wrong? Detectives enlist ballistics expert Gordon Robertson to put Brenda's eyewitness account to the test.
When I received these photos that were taken at the hospital, the first thing that I noticed was that it was a pretty close range wound.
But just how close? There's only one way to find out.
Her initial story was that the shooter was approximately 2 feet away. But the way we conducted these tests is to take the same type of firearm and take the same ammunition, and we fired at a known distance. And these tests were done at 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, and then 24 inches to show the difference, because the 24-inch was the alleged distance that she was shot.
It turns out Brenda's story is about as authentic as her wedding vows.
The tests that we did indicate that the story that we were initially told about the 24 inches could not possibly be true. The actual gunshot distance was much closer to 2 inches.
Poor Brenda, betrayed by her own wound.
This is probably the place where you could shoot somebody and do the least damage.
It seems love really does hurt.
She had to show some kind of injury. You can't just walk away with your husband laying there dead on the floor.
It's all becoming clear. James and Brenda are partners in crime. But where in the world is this deadly duo?
Contacted the local FBI office, and they put out a fugitive warrant for them.
After 3 long months, police get the break they've been waiting for.
We received a phone call from the border at Hidalgo, Texas. They were attempting to re-enter the United States en route over when they were apprehended at the border.
The runaway lovers are totally broke and totally busted.
I believe they were coming back to regroup and make another plan.
James and Brenda are arrested for the murder of Rob Andrew. Now Detective Garrett can finally piece together what happened that terrible night.
We believe that the plot to kill Robert had been in place for several months. We believe he went to the garage door to meet her so he could take a look at the heating unit. As he's over there inspecting the heating unit, Mr. Pavat was already in the garage wielding a shotgun, and Mr. Pavat fires a shot.
And there's a startling new twist. There were 2 gunmen that night, but one was a woman.
We believe Brenda Andrew fired the second shot. Ballistic evidence on her jeans showed that she was the person who fired the second shot at Robert.
It's a shocking conclusion. Rob's life came to an end at the hands of his loving wife. As for Brenda's wound,
she probably just held her arm down to the side and turned her head the other way, and he fired a gunshot into her arm.
It was a good plan, but not good enough.
I believe they thought they could get by with it. She always thought she was smarter than everybody else, I think.
But she's not smart enough to convince the jury. Brenda and James are both convicted and sentenced to death. And in this frontier town, justice doesn't flinch.
I just don't think the death penalty is good enough. But I would love hard labor. I would love the chain gangs. And it's just sad that somebody like that ended up with somebody who basically killed him. Black Widow.
As the citizens of Landsbrook are left to ponder Brenda's fate, Rob's closest friends must now come to terms with the darkness in Brenda's heart.
It's amazing that anybody can bring that kind of pain into people's lives and have no regard for anybody. It's hard to watch. The thing that just doesn't sit with you is Rob's kids will never, ever know what a wonderful dad they had.
But even in the midst of an unimaginable darkness, hope, like faith, is not easily forsaken.
It is a sense of relief to know that the kids are safe. Folks who did this are behind bars and that the grandparents are taking care of the kids and that hopefully they'll get to have a wonderful life from this point on.
And it's this hope that ensures the memory of a truly well-lived life will never be forgotten.